Time keeps on leaving and we keep on moving. When do we pass on our wisdom to the youth? My veteran story, lost arts discussions, fireside chats with a bourbon or two. It's time to hear the stories by our military veterans. Get yourself ready. It's the Lost Arts Podcast. The Lost Arts with Andrew Cox.
So we were just talking about just the drill field in general. I mean,
Yeah.
The good times, the bad times. I mean, there's a lot of great people, and then there's people that, if I never see again, good riddance to them. And I meet a lot of people after the fact too, after I've left that are just, that were in different companies or, different, first or third battalion, that are just, good people or people that I went to D high school with,
Yeah.
Is it a highly talked about topic about being a drill instructor? I would say, oh yeah, people really, think it's interesting what people see and what people go through are a variety of it's two different things. It's like cool to see it, but it's not necessarily cool to do it.
Yes.
And the person getting it done to them, it definitely is not a cool thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. I always explain it to people. They're like, "Oh, how was your time?" I was like, it was the best, worst 3 years of my life. That's the only way I can explain it. It had its good moments, it had its bad moments, and sometimes there were really good moments, sometimes really bad moments. But each one of them, it's the best 3 worst years of my life.
So I don't know. Did you do another platoon after I left, or were you done too when I finished?
I only did 2 senior cycles, so that was it.
Yeah. So I extended. What I extended like a month to do a full cycle because I pretty much after we graduated, I was done. I was pretty much I flew out. My sister got commissioned. I think after my last cycle, and she's a major now in the out there. She's out there in Yuma. She's the aviation there. I think for what they call that Mojave Viper, or is that CAX? I can't remember.
Mojave, it might be Mojave Viper.
Or well, she's out there. She does the Yuma WTI. That's what it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Weapons training instructor for the pilots.
Yeah.
So
Very
she's
cool.
out there. She's at she's at her 23-year mark now.
Are you serious? Holy cow.
Yeah, she is a prior enlisted.
Well, how long was she enlisted for before she went?
Till like what, 2010, 2011, she got commissioned.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
So 10 years enlisted.
Wow.
Because she was an Emerald manager with HMLA 369 out there in Pendleton. And she deployed over to Kuwait, and then she got sent to I was going to say New River, but I believe it was Cherry Point. And then she got the old program when they had Boost. She was one of the last classes to go through the Boost program.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. Yeah. Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, but a major, doing well for herself.
She's probably ready for a lieutenant colonel, but I think she's getting out. She doesn't want to keep moving up.
Yeah. And how many years total is that for her?
Right now, she's at 23 years.
23. Yeah. And things are definitely changing in the in the world of the military. So, yeah, it's definitely making things interesting for sure.
So, I don't know if you remember, I took a round through the cover of my campaign cover when I was on the.
Yeah. So, tell everybody that story because that's a good story.
So most of the time when you're third hat, you're always down the butts, and you just make sure recruits are pulling targets, pacing them. And I was down there and around a rapid fire. I was about to go to the back of the center house, they call it. And next thing I know, I thought a recruit punched me. I literally thought a recruit punched me because my cover came down, hit me at the bridge of the nose, and I was kind of like, whoa, what happened? And I reach up and I'm bleeding on my lip, and I'm like, what's going on? And then, after I get my senses back to me, you can see my cover has like the felt coming out the top, and you take it off and you can see right where it went right through, and it just barely missed my nose. It just went right across, kind of like nicked my lip of it. And I went up and I said, I got hit. And they had ceased fire, and the corpsman came and checked me out, and I was fine. But the ordeal after that, they had changed everything down there. There was no red line. The red line went straight. You couldn't go back to the center house after that. I still had to go back to warrant officer, and then as a
And
senior,
at that point, you weren't doing anything wrong. You were walking everywhere they told you could walk.
oh yeah. At that time, I wasn't outside any parameters I wasn't supposed to. They figured it might have been a ricochet off one of the targets or something. But like when after that, I was like, I ain't going down there. I did everything I could not to go down there. I mean, when I was even as a J or the seniors, I might go down there, but like rapid fire, I was like, nah, I'm standing up next to this. I kept that cover. I still have it today.
That's wild.
But
And it's completely blown out on that one because the exit part of it, right, is completely blown out.
yeah, it's not, well, it's kind of crushed down, but yeah, you can see it. It looks like someone took a pin and went straight down, and it's just because it's like a small hole, and it had, because they're made out of that hard felt, and it just had like the felt coming out, and I was like, wow.
That's wild. And it was one that it came in front of you, right?
Yeah, right, it was like I guess the way it came in front, and it came down at an angle, because you could see where it kind of went at an angle through the cover, and it just nicked me right below the on the lip, right below the nose. Like if it had came anywhere else. And it happened after, a week after, I can't remember if it was a corpsman under another Marine had the same thing happen on the East Coast, but it actually killed him.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I was like, well, I never thought of it before, because you never see any problems, but after that day, I had a whole different thing about the butts, a whole different thought about it. I was like, if I was a cat, I just used up one of my lives.
yeah. That's very true. Holy cow. Yeah, that was a wild story for sure. Holy cow. That's one to tell the grandkids right there. Wow.
That's
So
right.
after the growth field, where did you end up going?
I went back to I went to Miles 11 at Miramar,
Mhm.
and they had sent me to. They didn't send me to the ALSS shop, because they already had a gunny there. He's going to be there a while. They ended up sending me over to what was it? Like S5, like S5, where they do some of the training stuff. But I was there long enough to write a paper, get an average fit rep, because I didn't have a job, and they were gonna put me as the squadron gunny, and a billet came up that was supposed to be filled by the current gunny for an IA billet, and he couldn't. So they since I was pretty much newer to the squadron. It was the ones that do all the weigh-ins and all that. That's where they sent me, where you do all your weigh-ins and all that for everybody. I can't remember what S shop that is.
Yeah. The three S3.
S3. And I wasn't there that long before they were going to move me over. And I sat in the desk for like a day or two, and the guy that was supposed to go on IA billet didn't qualify, and I hadn't deployed, and they're like, hey, send him on the IA. And I was like, hey, I'm game, because by that time, I hadn't deployed in 4 years. So my what do you call it? Your deploy reset date is out of date and all that. So I went to first, they sent me to 1st Marine Division to the S6. So I went to the assessments in S6 at Camp Pendleton and did a full workup of like 6 months and deployed to Afghanistan for a year.
Oh wow. No kidding. And what did you do in Afghanistan?
So Afghanistan, I was I say like I was at S6, F6, whatever they call that. SS6 is what they called it, deployed. And I did assessments. So I would get all the reports. I was the only enlisted guy in the shop. So S6 is all the planning and all the assessments of what's going on in country in Helmand province. So my thing is to get reports from all these externals of all the other S shops and then what had happened that week, combine them and send them to the general. But that also meant that I seen everything that happened in country.
Yeah, which was quite a bit.
So
at one time.
So I had Nipper, I had what Sipper, and then I had the third one. I called what was the purple one at the time. So I had 3 different computers.
Wow.
Everything on the top on the secret computer. I didn't really use it. It was mostly just the like the NATO. I call it like the NATO computer. Like
Yeah.
so, my shop I had a lieutenant colonel, and then inside that was in charge of the S that we were in, and then we had 2 majors, another major from Estonia. I had a captain from England and another major from England. And
Oh wow.
it was interesting because I was the only list guy. So, and that doesn't count the 4 SMEs I had, our SIMs. And these guys, I'm in charge of these guys. Well, they still did their own thing, but I was responsible for these guys that were making, 6 figures over there. That were general advisors for the general. Because we had like a DEA retired DEA guy over there. You had the guy for land or water, and you had a cultural, expert over there to explain how people work. And you talk about some of the worst meetings to sit in because these guys would have to do briefs to the general. I thought it'd be cool to sit in and see what I sat in like 2, and I was like, nope, never again. Yeah, I mean, if you ever set a 2-hour meeting about wells on how we built wells and how if this well's this deep and this well's this deep, this guy loses his water, and it didn't help me or interest me too much over there. But I learned a lot about other things too, like because we were the only ones over there that could look up. We dealt with a lot of drugs. So I dealt a lot with the poppy over there, and we went through on the tools on how they make it, how they plant it, how they cultivate it, how they pretty much make it into what people know as white heroin or pure heroin.
Right.
But we also learned that's what morphine's made out of.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's made out of the same plant.
Huh. That's very interesting.
And then I was also, with they had these old mill investigators or mill clerk investigators that would investigate mail and stuff like that. They'd be over in the investigation offices where they would they go. That's where they sent like old weapons and guns and get fingerprints off of it and all that too. So we'd go over there and look at all that what's been recovered out in the battlefield. And one thing about Afghanistan, a lot of people don't realize is they've had a lot of people in their backyard for a lot of years. So when they got 1918 rifles that they're still shooting at people, they've been fighting a long time.
Yeah, they have definitely year after year, man, been fighting like crazy over there, and I don't think it's ever going to stop.
And it was always, hey, if you're in a Shiite base, you want Sunnis, guarding you. You want whatever's guarding you, the opposite on the outside.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
And the country should be, my opinion, it should be two different countries, spending that much time out there, because they're two different people. They're two different, and then on top of it, they got the two different tribes. They speak two different languages.
No kidding. Wow.
They speak what? Farsi,
Mhm.
and they speak Arabic.
I didn't realize that it was two different dialects though.
And it's two different dialects, and then it's tribes, and then you get, imagine someone moving in your backyard and saying, hey, you got to do this, this, and this. And, they might shoot your dog on accident, and they expect you to still be happy about it.
Yeah.
And you just pay money, or you might build them something.
Mm-hmm.
So, I had to facilitate food for like NATO things also when I was over there. So I was at Camp Leatherneck, even the time it got attacked, to all those guys that came in and blew up all those Phantoms.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a good lesson learned for a lot of people, because I'd already been over there about, I think, 6 months, where all I'm doing is I just got my pistol on me going around the base. I had a car over there, or a 4Runner, and my rifle, I had turned it into the armory. And then when the base get attacked, I'm like, what am I going to do with this pistol? And they wanted to stay in our little our vans or whatever. They look like being shipping containers over there, or they want us to stay inside the compound, because I was in the compound. That that's probably the best guarded place on Leatherneck anyways. But yeah, the next day I went and I took my rifle out. I was like, this pistol ain't gonna do nothing for me anyways. But I had to go over to the Afghani training site a few times, because they had a chow hall over there, and when you do some of those events, they want to feed them Afghani food, and that was interesting to go and negotiate with their side on getting food made for this event. And I learned after my first meeting that it's better to, like, I was able to carry my pistol on a belt underneath my blouse, instead of like some people. Anytime people would wear their drop holsters, they'd rest their hands on it, just like a natural thing. They'd rest their hands on it. So I kept a hip holster on, and I learned that they would be more relaxed speaking with you, because I had I'd actually took the general's interpreter when I went over there to negotiate that stuff, and that worked out pretty well. I'd tell you this: their sanitary reason, I wouldn't eat their food, because a lot of people don't know, like, America's very sanitized as when it comes to like the way we prep our food. We have tables.
Yeah.
And not all countries, like, besides maybe major cities that you might go to that have like restaurants and westernized civilization,
So I can't play with her.
the food doesn't go, it goes on the floor. They'll prep it on the floor. Like, I seen pita bread stacked up from the floor up. Like, they had like a corner, like, where they would wash chicken. It was still like pretty much what we consider like on the floor. And I would be like, they eat on the floor.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
And they would, they cook them in vats, like big vats of stuff in ovens, but there was like what we would call a countertop.
Yeah. Wow. Gotta love that.
Oh.
Wow. And then you were in Afghanistan for, you said 6 months, or was it longer than 6?
Oh, it was almost there.
Did you do a whole year?
Almost. It was like February.
Oh, wow.
It was February to the end of November. It was like right before or after Thanksgiving I got back. Because I was there I was there for the Marine Corps ball. I remember that, and I didn't take like R&R because they were gonna. I wasn't gonna stay a year. I wasn't gonna stay 6 months, and I was because they had no replacement for me, and I got
Mm.
set to take. I got me and a major, lieutenant colonel now. We got set to take all Helmand Province leadership to the U.S. to meet the oncoming second MEF, our second Marine Division that was going to come in and relieve us.
Oh wow. Okay.
So we took, these 2-star general. Well, it was like what, two 2-star generals, a 1-star, and a colonel to the U.S. Me and him, and we had our interpreter with us, but most of them spoke English. And
Yeah.
the one spoke Russian too, but
Oh wow.
so we had to get all their flights. So I had to go. Actually, I had to fly to Kabul to get all the money for them, and then I had to get money for them. Well, I got the money at Leatherneck, but I had to fly to Kabul to get all their plane tickets and to get the interpreter's money, because the interpreter's money, my money that I flew with, and the money that the Afghanis flew with were all different 3 monies, and it was my responsibility to track all this money. And it was all cash. It wasn't like they gave me a card saying, "Hey, this is how much they get per day."
That's ridiculous.
So
So how much money are you saying you think you had with all that?
I think it's upwards of $50,000 cash. Before, I had flown to Kabul, and the tickets I bought for all these guys were all cash. And I remember it's like $6,000 or $7,000 at the time. And then we met up, me and the major and the interpreter. We flew from, where did we fly from? We flew from Leatherneck on the other side. I can't remember what the name of it was called off the top of my head. Flew to Lashkar, I think, and then we got on a flight and we flew into Dubai. And then we met up with all the generals in Dubai. He knew the generals because he had worked with the one was the recruit training general, one was the border patrol general, and we met up with them. He just looks at me and says, "Just give each one of them $100 when you meet them, and then they won't bother me. They'll bother you." Because they do, because they've done it before and they do, but he says it's a good impression because then they'll know that you're in charge.
Yeah.
I just kind of laugh because, again, I'm the only enlisted guy here. All these other ones are, high ranking officials, and I got this major with me.
So they were putting it all on you.
Oh yeah, like as soon as I fly in Dubai, of course I have a military passport instead of an American passport. So guess what? Everybody that showed the American passport, just the regular blue passport, they get a 30-day visa. Me, I have the red passport, and they're like, "Nope, you got to pay $150, and you can only stay 24 hours in our country."
Wow.
Because if I had the other passport, it would have been no big deal. And I didn't even think about that because they make you, if you deploy before, they make you get a passport before you go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was running with. And I was like, the same thing, like when I flew in trying to get back to Leatherneck, they try to say, "No, we're not letting you in the country."
Wow. Just imagine if you got stuck somewhere, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd have been fun.
But I've been to Dubai a couple of times. Dubai is, I was there in 2005 and 2007 with both my squadron cruises. So I'd seen it from like one heck of a city, and then 2 years later going into crazy city, and then going back 4 years later to see what it was then. Is just it's like a Hawaii, where everybody goes to just have a good time, and not, you wouldn't think it's the Middle East, I guess is how I should word it, because of the money, the things you can do there, like the malls, you go snowboarding at the mall.
Really?
Oh yeah, they call it ski to buy.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
You got all the exotic cars there. You got the gold souk there. Like it's they got water park there.
What? Holy cow.
Like you
Is
ever
that
think
where
about
everybody
going
goes
there?
for R&R?
So it would be a port call. We'd go there and be there 3 or 4 days, and you go out and see the sights. They also had knockoff stuff like the knockoff purses, the knockoff watches. At
Oh,
certain places, and you can get real gold. Dubai is if you haven't went, it'd be a interesting place to go.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, hey, whenever I'm on vacation, maybe Dubai is it, man. So what happened after your deployment to Afghanistan?
I went back to Miles 11, and I wasn't there too much longer, and they had say, hey, we need a gunner sergeant to go to HMLA 169 at Camp Pendleton. And they're about to deploy. I'm like, oh, great. This time, now I'm getting divorced.
Yeah.
Well, I got divorced right after my deployment to Afghanistan. It kind of went downhill at the end of the drill field, but it that 1 year deployment kind of capped it off. And so now I'm going to deploy. I'm like, okay. I get there, they it's a Cobra Helo squadron, and they had just upgraded to all the new Cobras and Hueys. So by the time I got there, they're like, hey, we're not going to deploy because we don't have the resources to maintain these aircraft. They're so new.
Wow.
So I end up not deploying while I was there. By this time, as you know, I've already had, 4 combat deployments, because every deployment I ended up becoming a combat deployment. To my first one, and once it was a combat, and then I did the support of Afghanistan and Iraq on both my F-18 cruises, and then Afghanistan. Of course, that's pretty self-explanatory. So I figured, with all the debts that you do and all the workups you do, I was like, I don't think I really need to go anywhere, because at this time, I got the Silver Star on the sea deployment, ribbon. I have 4 years of sea time already, over 4 years of sea time.
Mm-hmm.
So I might have been on the road a little bit my last couple of years in the Marine Corps.
Oh man. So you spent what, another 2-3 years there?
It's probably about 3 years. So I got there. I started got in the shop, because they already had 2 staff sergeants there. I was the gunny. And now I'm going back to a shop. I'm going back to, I just spent the last, after the 3 years in the drill field, and then I did over 2 years, in MALS, and almost 3 years between MALS and being deployed, because when I was at MALS, I might have missed it. I was a QAR, so I was at MALS. No, actually, that's when came back from Afghanistan. I got my times mixed up, but when I came back, I went to the MALS QA shop. So I was the QAR for ALSS, and so my job was, being at the MALS level, you go and you inspect all the other squadrons.
Yeah.
Like how you heard about inspections earlier. So we go back, and there's a schedule, and we go and inspect all the we would inspect our MALS, but then we'd also go back and inspect the squadrons. And then on top of that, when CNAP or there's total of 3 inspectors, there's Miles, CNAP, and then there's one in between. But we would go and we'd also walk through with them to see if we missed something. But I did that for almost a year and a half, 2 years before they sent total Miles time was between the end of the drill field all the way up till 2008. No. For 2015 maybe. So I was at HMLA 169 for 2 years, 2.5 years, 3 years, something like that. So it was about my 18-year mark. So I went there, I started getting everything ready, because we always had a deployment out too. So I always had Marines on the ship or going on a dead. I did a WTI while I was there out at Yuma. I did a CAX recovery at the airfield while I was there. And I went to Mag 39 for a year because when stuff was going up, the ex-wife started causing some trouble, saying that I wasn't doing my part when I was paying all my child support. It's just she got in a bad relationship and wanted more money because she had moved somewhere.
Yeah.
And so they just put me over there. So I was over there and I did the SACO thing for a while for the the whole mag. So I was at the mag level, Mag 39. And when I was at Mag 39, I guess that's when my senior drill instructor came in to be the sergeant major at the mag.
Yeah.
And the guy that I went to Afghanistan with when we did the generals to the US, he came in to be the XO.
Oh, wow. No kidding. Small world.
Oh yeah. So it was
That was
interesting.
back to your last duty station?
So I was there about a year, maybe a little over, and then I went back to the squadron, and then I had started, I went back and I was running the shop and the master guns at the time. I think he knew that I was biding my time,
Mhm.
because I went to 22 because I figured I'll get looked at one more time, and instead of getting 50% on retirement, I'll take 55%.
Yeah.
Because you get 2.5% every year over.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, and I actually extended 2 weeks because my entry base date was July 17th. So I got it, so I would have had to got out before July 1st. So I got out August 1st. So I got the full 22 years.
Yeah,
But,
very nice.
But when I went back, he made me get all, my CDQAR for the shop. And then, so I got all spun up on, on all the O-level, all the O-level gear again. Because at first I was like, I've been out of the MOS for, 5 years almost.
Yeah.
Between going to the drill field, when I went to Miles S3, then I deployed over to Afghanistan, the workup with them for 6 months, the year over there. And I came back, I went to QA, and that had nothing to do with O-level gear at all.
Yeah.
I was inspecting eye-level stuff, and I was inspecting squadrons. So I knew the inspection part, but like actual do the work. And then me switching from platforms, I went from fixed wing platform my whole career.
Mm-hmm.
And F-18s. I went to helos. So now I have to learn, rotor wing gear. And I was like,
Wow.
and I'm already like 19 years, 20 years, 21 years. And I was like, how can I get on the road on this one?
Yeah.
But no, I actually got my CDQAR, collateral duty, quality assurance representative.
Mhm.
So I went back and I took, my 4790 test. I took the shop test. And then, I worked it from there. So I went back and I took all the tests again. And they,
Nice.
first, sometimes when you get rank, they like, he knows it, let's just give him a grade, give him a stamp. But no, I took all the tests, everything.
Nice.
Because, within those 5 years, stuff changes in the, things, they change in the 4790. 4790 is just a standard, operation procedures for the air wing.
Yeah.
The basics, what you need to do. And then you have to take a test for your shop on, stuff on the aircraft, on the CADs and stuff, because that's something else that we had to learn, because in fixed wing, you have a seat shop.
Alex next door.
So anything that has to do with a seat is considered on a seat shop, like in anything, fixed wing, because it has injection seats.
Right.
Now, anything to do with CADs or doors or windows, because the Cobras have blowout windows, with deck board pretty much. And guess what? In rotor wing, that's you. So I had to learn all
Oh,
that.
wow.
So I had to learn all that.
Yeah.
Learn how to remove the seats, how to remove seats, how to, then how to learn how to QA the seats when they go back in.
Wow. That's quite a bit more then. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's quite a bit more. I mean, granted, you go from a shop that has 5 or 6 people to a shop that has almost 14 people.
No kidding. Wow. That's
Yeah.
quite a bit.
Yeah, because they rate a gunny and 2 staff sergeants. Fixed wing only rates a staff sergeant at the end of the day.
Wow. That's crazy. So then you at this point in your career, you're coming up on the end. Or when you're gonna retire, you said at 22.
Yep.
And so how was that transition for you?
At that point, I thought I knew what I wanted to do.
Mhm.
And I put a couple applications in. I got a few calls for a couple different jobs. I got like for MIMS. They wanted me to do MIMS for like I think it was Bell Helicopter
Oh, wow. Yeah.
up in but it was up in, I think it was up in Connecticut, or not Connecticut. Maybe it was Connecticut. It was right across the bay from New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that it was a contract job, but it was only good for 18 months.
Oh, yeah.
And the pay was good. And I was like, I don't want to get up there and then work for 18 months. And I didn't have any cars at the time that would be winter worthy. I still really don't
Yeah.
have worthy cars. Everything costs so much up there. The housing, I wouldn't have been able to buy a house up there, and where you had to drive to work, and it wasn't guaranteed. Like, so after this, a year, you get reevaluated, maybe 6 months. And
Yeah.
I got interviewed with Meridian, Mississippi. I was like, nope, I'm not gonna live there. I don't know if you've ever been in Meridian, Mississippi. There's not a lot there.
Mm.
They train pilots there, and they got what I do there. I looked into Corpus Christi, and damn, it's hot down there. And there's not necessarily a lot out there, but it's I looked at a lot of government jobs, I should say.
Yeah.
So we packed up the house, and I wasn't sure where I was going to move, but I had to pack it up. They put it in storage, and I drove out to Georgia, and my brother lived out here. And I thought maybe I'd just do some hot shot, and I like cars,
Yeah.
Cars are very interesting. And I said maybe I'll just do some hot shot and just buy a truck, get a trailer. And I was like, damn, I don't know nothing about it. So let's look at this. And it's like, get a CDL, get this, get the insurance. I was like, well, I got Montgomery job bill. Let me just go get my CDL.
Yeah.
So I got my CDL, and I actually was the honor grad, because it wasn't hard to show up on time and listen to the instructions. I mean, all it was is that was their biggest thing is, show up to class on time, and take a couple tests, the driving portion, backing kind of give you an issue, a little bit of problem. So I finally got it all completed and got my license, and I was like, what else don't I know? I don't know. I don't know weight stations. I don't know. I got a license, but you
Yeah.
don't. At the end, you don't know what you don't know. And I was like, well, let me just go. Let me just go work for this trucking company. I said it's great because I don't have to answer nobody.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for nobody. And they don't make too bad of money. So I went and I actually started, I told them I don't want to do any grunt work. So I didn't want to do flatbed. So
Yeah.
it's funny because I went to work for a flatbed company running reefer. And they sold their reefer division. I was like, I guess I stay. And I started flatbed and I was like, this is a lot better than running reefer because those guys, they run bad hours. They sit a lot. So
Mhm.
their delivery times, believe it or not, for like all these big cities and places like that, for like Cisco and US Foods and all those big distributors. Some of them, their appointment times would be at midnight, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And
Oh, wow.
if you're delivering in, Memphis, Nashville, Atlanta, there's not a lot of places to park.
Yeah.
That 2 o'clock in the morning, you leave your parking spot. You better have somewhere to go. So,
That's true.
and I was going out for 4 weeks at a time, coming home for 4 days. I was like, "This ain't too bad," but it was not. It wasn't great. It wasn't great, but I was getting paid good. I was like, "Shit," By this time my retirement's kicked in, and
Yeah.
then the VA kicked in, and I'm like, "Shit, I ain't doing so bad." I'm making more money now
Yeah.
than I was, 2 months ago. And but I switched over. I've been with the same company going on. It'll be 7 years. And
Wow.
I run flatbed. So I run flatbed, full size semi truck Monday through Friday.
Yeah. That's not bad, man.
You know, I got I got 6 years into a 401k on top of that.
Hmm.
Um, I bought a house um, right before the crash. Everything I refinanced it, for under 2%,
Oh,
and
very nice.
on a 20-year loan. So I got less than 14 years left on the house. So I figured by the time the house paid off, I hit right. I probably won't go 20 years working, but I'll go up to
Yeah.
probably got another maybe 5, 7, 8 years, maybe more, maybe 10, and then
Yeah.
I'll be able to retire and still buy a new car. I don't know how else to explain it. 'Cause, a lot,
I
lot of
think you're
people,
right.
a lot, there's a lot of people retire and then whatever they had when they retired, that's what they have. And
Yeah.
I just don't like that, and
Oh, yeah.
I still like Mustangs and you know
You don't have the same Mustang, do you?
I think I had the gray one. You remember the gray one, right?
Yeah.
So I bought one. I'd actually ordered that on my 2007 deployment.
Okay.
And it's funny because drill instructor school thought I was trying to flex because you know how they did remedial PT?
Uh-huh.
And me being a gunny, and I showed up after remedial PT for some remedial drill or something, and they're yelling at me because I didn't go to remedial PT because I was a gunny and I should show um, leadership. I was like,
Yeah.
and it was all because I drove a brand new car past them when they were getting done PT, and they're just it was that thing like. But when I went to Afghanistan, I actually sold that one. I bought I ordered a 2013 when I was in Afghanistan, and I
Oh,
picked that.
wow.
So I still have that one. And then I bought a Bullet, a 2019 Bullet, and I had traded that one in, and then I traded in, and I got a GT 500, a
Oh,
2021 500.
nice. Very nice.
So I still have the 13. I've done a lot of work to that one, and then I got a high horsepower car.
Yeah, you're still out there running them. It's all good.
We see between different hobbies. I like the RC cars, and we build them, and then every Marine likes guns too. So I got while I was in, I didn't have that many, but I've got a few now.
Yeah. I had nothing wrong with that. You gotta have that. So it's all good.
Oh yeah.
Well, hey man. Sorry. We're about that time or whatever. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up here in a minute. Is there anything that you want to say to anybody before we actually wrap it up, and like words of wisdom, anything like that before we hang up and move on?
I just enjoyed my time, and you look back, it was a great part of your life. I wouldn't say that I'm a type of person to harp on anything. We all have the people that we didn't enjoy, and we have the people that we do enjoy. And every once in a while, maybe just give them a call and say, hey, what's up? Because I still have my phone index of probably hundreds of people. I'd say of different people. But you meet one thing about it. It's people say it's not necessarily the Marine Corps you miss; it's the people. That's true of who you meet while you're there, and what their character is at the end of the day.
Absolutely, man. I agree. Yeah.
'Cause
Well, hey, man.
I remember all the
Yeah, go
time
ahead.
with you. We always had a great time. Like
Oh yeah.
as it was, we always made it better just by our antics and some of our crazy stuff we would do.
It was a good time when we were together. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I think that was some of my best cycles was when you and I were together there. It was fun.
Oh yeah, because it was like we were very competitive, but at the same time we were very supportive
Yeah.
of each other. And
Yeah, absolutely.
our recruits showed it at the end of the day. We like my last guide. I think he's a major now.
Oh wow.
Or he was at least a captain.
That's
And
great.
he was a I can't remember. He was with one of the squadrons right there in Camp Pendleton. Because he was supposed to be recon, and
Wow.
recon didn't work out for him, but he is already college educated. So he ended up commissioning and moving over there. Hicks, I think
Wow.
that's Captain Hicks is what
Hicks.
he's called now.
Okay.
There he is, kind of
Wow.
a big kid.
That's wild, man.
Because
Well, hey,
he was the honor grad.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah. That's wild. Hey, man, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. To all the listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. Always remember that we care about you and we want you to get the help you need. So if you're struggling or whatever, you can go to veteranscrisisline.net. You can click on that chat icon. You can also text 939-288. We do care about you. We want you to get the help that you need. So stay motivated, change your socks.